Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Storytellers. I'm your host, Hartness, and joining me today, live from his Kraken-filled studio, is my good friend, Falstaff author, fantastic guy, gamer, dude with all the hair, man with half a year that I'm jealous of every single year. Please welcome Chris Jackson.
Hey, how's it going, man? And yes, I have Krakens.
You have Krakens. You know, when I bring Misty Massey on this show and she has Kraken, it's really just wrong.
Hey, I will devote myself to a bottle of Kraken any day of the week.
That's some really good rum.
It is pretty good rum.
And the bottle is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So how you been?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. We're way up here in the mountains right now, not sailing the Caribbean. We got back to the States in time before all the ports shut down, but just by the skin of our teeth. But yeah, things pretty quiet up here. Loving life, getting some work done. It's so quiet. There's not much else to do but write.
Quarantine and solitude is not really that big a change for you.
Not really. I do miss. There's a local brew pub that I'm really missing a lot.
Oh, I bet.
We went downtown today to go to a hardware store because, hey, home improvement is what you do when you can't leave home, right? And
don't let my wife hear you say that. I'll have my honey-do list will get even bigger.
Sorry, edit that.
She doesn't watch my YouTube channel.
Oh, there you go. You're safe. But yeah, so we drove by the brew pub, the Lazy Hiker, and I looked at it and was like, oh, I miss you. It's just such a delightful place to hang, you know?
Yeah. I don't know that one. My niece who lives up in Asheville, you've seen me, I'm sure, reposting her soap company advertisements.
Right, yeah.
Well, they've gotten crushed by all of this because one of their biggest clients for their soap is Sierra Nevada Brewing.
Oh, God.
Because they sell her soap in the gift shop because it's made with, she has a brand that's made with Sierra Nevada beer.
Mm.
Yeah, they've gotten killed because that's 1,000 bars of soap every few months that isn't being bought.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about COVID-19 because God knows there's plenty to say, but that's what social media is for. We've got that. We got plenty of spaces to scream about that.
Mm.
We're going to talk about dragons.
All right.
2 in particular.
Right.
So you've got a new book coming out. It's called Dragon Nemesis.
Yeah.
How would you describe the Dragons of Boston series?
So if you took science, paranormal fantasy, and a pandemic, scrunched it up into a ball, put it in a blender, that's pretty much what you'd have with this trilogy. I mean, what happens when you unearth a kind of a virus that changes people into dragons? That's kind of a bad thing, right? And
well, you know, there's probably plenty of people who are thinking, I wouldn't mind being a dragon. No, you don't want to be a dragon.
No, and then the government's after you, and all these subversive organizations are after you because everybody wants a dragon, right? So
yeah, who wouldn't? I mean, I want a dragon.
Right.
I don't know what the hell I'd feed a dragon.
But be one,
yeah, I do.
Kind of, you know, it's difficult to get out and be social when you're a dragon because everybody's like, dragon!
Yeah. So it's funny. I just finished yesterday a book that made me think of some similarities between Dragon Nemesis in particular and this book I finished. It's by Lincoln Child and it's called Deep Storm. I don't know if you've read any of his stuff.
I have.
Have you? And this is one of the solo books. It's not one with Douglas Preston. This one is a sneaky science fiction book. And I feel like the Dragons of Boston series is almost a sneaky fantasy novel.
Yeah.
It's got because your stuff has a lot of Dan Brown feel, a lot of Ludlum feel.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, it feels like Jason Bourne is stuck in a Dan Brown novel, and then there's dragons.
Right, yeah, with dragons.
And that's what Deep Storm is like. You're going along like, okay, deep sea thriller. All right, we got some Clive Cussler shit going on, and holy shit, there's aliens.
Right, yeah.
Which, that's kind of a thing they do. Relic is museum thriller, holy shit, there's a monster.
Right, yeah. They weren't lying about this whole thing turning people into monsters. It was real.
Yeah.
And actually, the book Relic, the movie was good, but I like the book a lot better, of course, because hey, books.
That book was scary as shit.
Was one of the actual impetuses for this idea. The hidden virus from some place that transforms people.
Yeah.
And it's not like this hasn't been done. Hey, plots. If you think of a plot, it's been done.
Sure.
But it's my little twist on it. Instead of trips to South America, I threw in paleontology, because if you really know paleontology and have done some research into it, that's where the real finds are now. It's not doing more digs. It's looking in drawers in museums that haven't been touched in 200 years, and they miscategorized a bunch of stuff.
That's where this starts. This doesn't start with like a brand new discovery. This is a grad student working on her doctoral project, and she's looking at something that's already there.
Yeah, she's not a digger, she's a finder.
Right. Now, there's another element to this series that I find really interesting, and that's the romance side of it.
So yeah, I've gotten good and not so good feedback from. I put romance into almost everything I write, just because
Sure.
it's a human element that I don't feel like I can excise from a novel. Now, that said, if I'm writing something specific for a publisher and they say we don't want any romantic elements in this, and I've done that with Arkham Horror. I wrote an Arkham Horror novella, and they said we don't want romance in this. This is a horror novel. I said, okay, no problem, I can do that. But I kept having to pull myself back. It's like, whoa, Bandit, whoa.
Yeah. Well, people fall in love.
Yeah, that does happen.
I'm well aware that people fall in love because I've met your wife. She's a lovely person.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people fall in love with the unlikeliest of people because, like I said, I've met your wife.
Why the hell did she choose me, right?
Why did either of our wives choose us?
Well, there, But
the romance plays a strong part in this book. It is not by any stretch a romance novel.
No. Mm-mm.
Your publisher will never call it a romance novel because it doesn't have a happily ever after or even a happily for now ending in either book. It is absolutely a science fantasy thriller.
Right.
I think I just made that up.
Elements, and that's pretty much what I write in fantasy too. When I'm doing just straight up fantasy, is and I got some feedback from the Paizo novels I did, the Pirate's Honor and things like that. And one guy actually came up at a con to me and says, "This is basically a romance novel." I said, "It's not, because there's not the happily ever after feel at the ending. If you're saying this is a romance novel, you don't know the rules of a romance novel."
Right.
So.
And those rules are very specific and do not screw them up.
And that's why I don't write romance.
But you've written a ton of stuff. You've done a ton of your original stuff and a ton of work for hire. So what's the difference in the creative side of it?
Between work for hire and my own stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, when it's work for hire, I'm playing by their rules.
Mm-hmm.
I can push their rules quite a distance. And as you know from this last edit you just did, I like to go beyond their rules a little bit because it's easier to pull back than it is to add more.
Literally what I spent 2 decades telling actors on stage.
Right.
Is go too far.
Right.
My job is to pull you back.
Right, exactly that. That's the director's or the editor's purview right there, is to tell them when they've gone too far, and then to think to themselves, did they go too far?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really too much? And that's when you know you have a really good editor. Because, well, and I'll drop a name. James Sutter is one of the best editors I've had in my life with Pathfinder novels. And I did things in my Pathfinder novels that had never been done in a tie-in RPG series novel ever. And he was like, I like this. And I was like, really? I thought you were going to nix it. We just don't do that in a tie-in novel. That's not Pathfinder. I was like, wait, really? You going with that? Because I have an interspecies romance in that series. That's, really,
yeah,
interesting. But
and that's a thing, because one of the places I asked you to pull back, and then later on I found a spot and I was like, okay, this is just as far. Why does this bit not? And it made me think, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm right.
You're right.
But here's why.
Right. There are places to cut, and there are places to say, okay, this is a necessary evil right here. This is a necessary, and that was violence. We'll just say that was violence. But it's not in how the violence happens so much. It's in the underlying meanings of that particular type of violence.
Absolutely. And
once again,
violence.
I threw it out there. I went too far because I knew who was going to edit my novel, and I said, if this is too far, John will say, this is too far. And you did.
Right.
Like, yeah, I kind of thought it would be, but it's easier to pull back,
Yeah, and that's something that you're a pro. You've been at this for a couple of years. You've done this a minute. And I've edited a bunch of stuff, and I write as well.
Sure.
So there's that trust that we have innately.
Right. And so that's why I wasn't afraid of going too far.
Yeah. Go for it. I'll pull you back. And that kind of speaks to, we were friends before we started working together on this project. So why don't you tell the story of how you sold this series?
Okay, so this is very interesting. I'll drop another name. Ed Greenwood created a kind of a writers cooperative publishing effort. And Ed being Ed, he's a wonderful person. He created all of these worlds. He's a creative genius. And one of those worlds was called Helmaw. And it was basically about demon-like aliens living among humans and feeding on humans and things like this. And I already had the manuscript written, Dragon Dreams written, and I didn't really know where to go with it. I was going to pitch it to somebody, I can't remember. And at Gen Con, because most of my gigs happen at conventions, as ours did when I pitched it to you, Ed came up to me and said, I have got an idea for a publishing effort. And he handed me an LOA, and I signed it, and we got down to brass tacks. And I said, I already have something that will fit into this. I'll just change a few things. And we did that, and he published it. And we even did an audio book, and David Drummond did the audio, and it was brilliant. He scares the shit out of me. It went off fine and got some great feedback, but then the whole publishing effort kind of imploded for business reasons.
As happens.
It was a lot of bad things happened to Ed, and contractors who he went out and invested money in to back this backed out on him. And it was a horrific disaster. But
that's brutal.
Ed being Ed, once again, he handed my rights right back to me and said,
sure,
you just scrub the IPs out of it, it's yours. And in fact, I got 2 novels back from him, the Dragon Dreams novel and the Pirate Scourge novel that I self-published.
Yeah.
And ran with that ball. But and so here I have this manuscript in my hand, and I knew what you were getting into with Falstaff. And so once again, I just bumped into you at a con. I can't remember what con it was. Was it?
It was Raven Con.
Raven? I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Raven.
Raven, yeah. and I just pitched it to you and said, look, here's what happened, and laid it out to you. And I was kind of surprised that the first thing out of your mouth was, said, yeah, I want it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, you don't know what it is yet. It says, no, but I know you.
And that's kind of how I've built Falstaff is I sign authors more than I sign books.
Right. But that being said, I handed it to you. Well, I did the edits, of course, and
Sure.
scrubbed it, handed it to you, and said, well, give it a read and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, I like it, and it's clean. I said, well, hell, it should. It's gone through 5 edits already, you know.
Yeah. I think on the first run through, I had one note of the first
there
book.
were a couple. Yeah, it was pretty clean.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
that book released last year at Con Carolinas and has done well. It's now available in ebook, hardcover, and back, and working on, with the long list of things I'm working on getting into audio, working on that one too.
Yeah.
And then this one will be ready for release at Congregate, which is mid-July.
Cross your fingers.
Absolutely. If the con happens, we'll have a release party at Congregate.
And I will be there.
If the con doesn't happen, we'll still have the book for the weekend of Congregate.
Right.
So we had a production meeting today.
Right. Cool.
And we were going over the summer. And I was like, okay, so we're doing Dragon Dreams in early July. And I said, okay, Dragon Nemesis.
And we can do a thing like this, and I can hold up the, hey, look, it's out. Yay!
That's right. And we will.
Yep.
We shall.
Yeah, I'm excited. It was fun taking it to the next level.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see where it goes in the third book and how you wrap things up, because as it stands, it's a trilogy.
Yeah, it is.
Now, when you're building a series, because like I said, you've done this once or twice.
Yeah.
How many books do you have out now? Are we at 50 yet?
Oh, pretty close to 30. I think it's around 30.
Okay. All right. So when you're planning an idea, when you're working a series, is it typically open-ended in your head, or do you have a plan for, this is a trilogy, this is 4 books?
So I like the trilogy arc. I like how that works.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 series out. One that's been really, really successful, the Weapon of Flesh series. And the way that one worked is I wrote a trilogy, and then one of the secondary characters was screaming at me in my head, me, all throughout that trilogy. She wanted her own story. So I took a secondary character from that trilogy and picked it up basically exactly where the first trilogy ended, and tacked on 3 more books that was her story, using the primary character from the first, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm kind of doing that with the current series I'm working on, and I learned some lessons from that, from the Weapon of Flesh series, is Bloodsea Tales. I hate it when I forget my own books.
Dude, I feel you.
The original trilogy is 1, 2, 3 character story arc, and then one of the secondary characters in that story was screaming at me, saying, "You really need to write this, continue that story with me as the first story arc." And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So, but I like the trilogy arc because it works. There, you always have, the first book is pretty introductory and major conflict, and you wrap that up, and then there's the but then, and then the center book is always kind of a cliffhanger-ish kind of a thing that doesn't really leave, there has to be completed arcs in that, but there's that big hook at the end that says, I really want to see how this all wraps up, which is what you just said.
Yep.
And the third book wraps it all up. So
yeah, I did one of these earlier this week with Patrick Dugan, who's releasing Storm Shattered with us in a couple of weeks. And it'll be out by the time you're seeing this. So go buy Storm Shattered too. And I told him that I'm jealous of him because this is his third book ever, and he's doing something I have yet to do in my career. He said, "What's that?" I said, "Finish a damn series."
Well,
Because
yeah,
I haven't managed to do it.
right,
My Black Knight Chronicles will be wrapping up after one more book.
right,
I've turned in book 8, and it's a 9-book series, but I've never finished anything. It's
right.
going to be so weird.
Yeah, and that's difficult because like every series I've ever written, there's always something at the end that I could turn into more books.
Oh, I
Um,
can already see, I can tell you which set of characters in the Dragons of Boston. There's another set of books out of there.
oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, at least one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your shady ass Gigi and her folk.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a set of books with those crazy people
Oh, yeah.
because they scare me a little
Yeah. Yeah. It is a little freaky. Yeah. Um, so,
bit.
and that's something I try not to do. I like to wrap things up, but I don't like to burn a whole bunch of bridges. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
No
So,
John Irving shit, huh?
right. And everybody died. Oh, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I finished a John Irving book, or it's been a while, but when I was reading a lot of Irving, at the end, I was like, man, you went back and put a bow on literally every single plot thread.
Right.
I can't even remember all the plot
Right.
threads.
Right. And that's one of the hardest things of writing something. A little aside, I just got the idea of writing a short story that's a prequel for the Paizo books.
Okay.
Uh, maybe for the Origins anthology, but there's logistical problems and stuff like that. So I'm writing this, and what do I have to do? I have to go back and read 3 novels of my own work to make sure I have everything in the right places, because you never know when you mention something that happened that you're writing now a prequel to that.
Yeah.
So you're writing things that happened in previous books. You better get it right, or your
Yep.
readers will just rip you apart.
Because as you know, we have the Shadow Council Archives, which is an expansion of my Quincy Harker Demon Hunter universe. Well, those are other writers, and all of those are historical, they're alt history books.
Right.
And they all take place in the Quincy Harker universe. Well, Susan Roddy is writing about Frankenstein's monster, who I've written in present day.
Right.
So she can't do anything to him.
Can't kill him.
Can't kill him. And she has Dracula in her novellas.
Right.
So in the first one, I was doing the edits and I sent her back notes. This is, I'm sorry, Dracula can't do that. And she said, no, he can. It's in the book. I said, Stoker's Dracula could do that.
Right.
You're not using Stoker's Dracula. You're using my Dracula.
Right.
She's
Yeah.
like, oh, son of a bitch.
Well, and that's like writing tie-in fiction. That's like writing stuff for Paizo, or Iron Kingdoms, or Arkham Horror, all these things. The very first thing you have to do as a tie-in writer, and one of the most difficult things, is to absorb their world and all their rules. And I've actually turned down work that here's an IP that offers me a job to write a novel, and I look at their body of work and it's massive.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking, wait, okay, I'm going to write a novel for a flat out fee of X, and I have to work 3 or 4 months to absorb all this shit.
Oh, yeah.
And if I don't already have a vested interest in this, like the Arkham Horror stuff, I knew the world pretty well. So there wasn't a big absorption thing going on. And I kind of knew the characters as well. I played their games. But this other IP that pitched me, I hadn't ever played anything in any of their games, and I didn't know the universe. And the universe is wicked confusing and chaotic, and there's all this canon. And I was like, I would love to, but after looking at all of this stuff, and the very first thing they do is send you all their shit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a metric shit ton of documents, a gigabyte of documents.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at all this stuff going, oh my God. And I had to back out. I had to say,
Yeah.
I'd love to, but I can't.
It's like Wizards of the Coast. If they
Right.
messaged you and said, "Hey, we want you to write the next Magic the Gathering novel,"
I, you know,
25 years of lore. Now,
I
by
would
the way,
for this, but I've never played Magic the Gathering.
if they ever send you that email, the
Right.
correct response is, "Well, my friend John."
I would totally turf it. I would turf it. In fact, I turfed this one to somebody else, and I think they got a hold of him because
Yeah,
this guy was up to here in that IP and as a writer. And I
there
was
you
like,
go.
I don't want to do it, but here's the guy who can do it for you. And
Absolutely.
that's the beauty of being a member of this wonderful community of writers, that we all just give each other work and throw things back
Yeah,
and forth and stuff like that.
yeah. So behind me, you see the shelf with books.
Yeah.
When I started shooting these interviews from my desk, as opposed to shooting videos up against the bookcases, which are over on my left, I had to I reloaded that bookshelf because it was full of Magic cards. That I moved my Magic the Gathering storage off screen
Right.
so that it would look like a writer's backdrop instead of a Magic nerd's backdrop.
Yeah.
Although I am both.
Yeah, it's sad because we just moved most of our books and things like that off of the boat into our house. Having a boat in the house at the same time is just insane. So we're trying to consolidate all of our crap in our
Yeah,
house. We brought the boat back to the States this spring,
sure.
so we could load it all into a car and actually drive it back to the. Well, it's not all back yet, but I still have books in boxes because I don't have the shelf space yet. I
I
mean,
feel you.
I
That
have a
sounds like me in the middle of con season.
right. Yeah, I have I mean, I have my to sale books in a big closet in boxes and totes and things like that. It's all very well organized. But just my books, my favorites and stuff like that, they're all sitting in boxes right now. I need to rip out a wall downstairs where my office is and actually put in bookshelves so I can, like, my babies need a home.
Yeah, I have a bookcase that's full of signed books by my friends,
Yeah,
and that's the one that looks nice.
right.
Then there's inventory, and that looks decent. Then there's the stuff upstairs that's my books, and I was like, yeah, it's like 2 deep paperbacks stacked double high, and all this. It's crazy.
One of the hardest things I ever did was when we sold our previous house in St. Pete years and years and years ago and moved aboard a boat. I had to get rid of probably
Ooh.
80% of my books.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was cutting my legs off.
Now, when you're living on the boat,
Yeah.
are you mostly e-reader stuff, or is it still a lot of paper?
Still a lot of paper. The interesting thing about any place you cruise, the cruising community has like book exchanges.
Oh,
And so, just like the little library things you see all over
yeah.
the place. And so you drop off a book and you pick up a book. So
Okay.
I take that opportunity to read out of my genre because
Yeah.
I tend to read mostly fantasy and mostly, I'm reading a little bit more horror now, Dean Koontz, just because Dean Koontz is such a fantastic writer.
He
Yeah.
is. Whispers is one of his that's one of the scariest books I've ever read.
Yeah.
And it's old.
Yeah. I'm reading a series of novellas he's doing right now called The Nameless
Yeah.
series. They're short and they're shocking and they're creepy, and yeah, there's a lot of room for expansion there. I think he's going to take that ball and run with it. But yeah, e-readers and Kindles and reading online has changed the publishing world so vastly. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the novella now has a home.
Right.
You couldn't 20 years ago, you couldn't publish a novella if you footed the bill for it. Nobody would take it.
And now,
Just
I mean, we probably do 20 a year,
right.
if
And
not more.
e-publishers are now, they'll publish 3 novellas and then they'll put those 3 novellas into a hard format and say, hey, we have the, or a collection and stuff like that. So,
That's how I've made my living for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great, especially because I came from a journalism background. So writing 75, 85, 95,000 words, I'm like, oh my God. But 30K? Yeah,
Right.
that I can do. I
Right.
can get that. I
Right.
don't have to describe as much shit.
Right.
So speaking of, what are you reading nowadays?
Um, I'm like I said, I'm reading some Dean Koontz. Trying to stretch my legs. So I have to force myself to step out of my own area of fantasy.
Yeah.
Uh, I love a good fantasy novel, but my patience with fantasy novels is gotten briefer and briefer. Um,
Yeah.
People try to throw a bunch of schlock at me. I don't have the patience to finish a book anymore.
Sure.
What am I reading right now? Like I said, I'm having to read my old stuff just to do some writing. But Dean Koontz, I love and I can't remember the guy's name, of course, because I'm terrible with names. I've been reading a lot of my old favorites lately. I just read the Paxenarian series by Elizabeth Moon again
Yeah.
because it's one of my favorites.
If you're
Um,
reading a lot of horror, Snowblind by Christopher Golden
yeah.
came out a few years ago.
Hmm.
He
I've
won the Stoker the next year for Ararat, and I really felt like he got robbed for Snowblind. I thought Snowblind was brilliant.
right. I've
Ararat was really good, and you would probably dig Ararat because it's got some of the same archaeological feel as the Dragons of Boston series.
right. Hmm.
It's about an expedition on to Mount Ararat.
Right. Hmm.
But I think Snowblind it's old school, like circa 1980, 82 Stephen King kind of good.
That's horror. That's very.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't read that stuff in the evenings because I can't sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming up on the end of our time here, where
Yep.
can people find you?
Easiest place to find me is my own website, and then there's trickle downs from there to everywhere else. And it's easy to find. It's Jax Books with an X, JAX books.com. And usually we're doing at least 6 or 7 cons a year, but this year's a mess. So we're still scheduled for Gen Con, Dragon Con, Origins. I might show up at Congregate
Yeah.
if it happens, and a few others, but we'll see how that goes. You can always find me on Facebook. Just make sure you put the A, Chris A. Jackson. Otherwise, you just get a bunch of, there's umpteen billion Chris Jacksons out there. And on Twitter is Chris A. Jackson 1, the numeral 1 after
Okay.
that. So you can get me there. I primarily stick to Twitter for my writing stuff, but I get broader in my posts on Facebook.
I warn people. I'm like, look, if you want writers to stay not political,
Yeah.
don't friend me on Facebook. Go to my group, go to my Facebook author page.
Yeah.
If you send me a friend request, you're getting unexpurgated Hartness, and some days nobody wants that.
Right. Well, and that's what I tell people is literature's been political from the get-go. Science
Absolutely.
fiction, fantasy have been political from the get-go. If you don't get that, you're
not reading right.
blinders. You're just not paying attention.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, thanks so much for hanging out. It's always good to see you. I wish we could be hanging out in person in a couple of weeks at Con Carolinas, but next time I see you, we'll have an adult beverage.
It's the next best thing, right? Sure.
That's right.
Whiskey. You don't drink brown liquor. You drink like.
I drink vodka. I drink Fireball.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, that stuff gives me anything too sweet, kind of.
Yeah, bourbon and stuff like that. It makes me punch things.
Oh, I hope. Well, I don't want to be anywhere near you.
I don't either, because honestly, I don't punch things very well, and it hurts my hand.
Is that why you're wearing the? Have you been drinking? Is that why you got the thing on your hand?
No, this is a video game injury.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
I pulled my thumb playing Borderlands 3.
Yeah. I'm playing. If you want a beautiful, beautiful game, play Subnautica.
Yeah,
It's gorgeous.
I don't know that one.
Collector kind of a survival game.
Okay,
It's wicked fun, but the screenshots and just the environment is just beautiful. So
I'll
that's my
check it out
sin. So
because I'm about to finish my second playthrough of Border 3, so I might need a break after
sure.
logging something like 300 hours in that game since it's released.
Yeah,
Actually, since I got it a month ago. But
I'm always playing a new character in Skyrim. That's just kind of rote for me.
yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Pick up Dragon Nemesis, pick up Dragon Dreams. It's available right now in all of your local bookshop can happily order it for you. You can get it on Amazon in ebook, and you can also order copies from falstaffbooks.com because we have several copies on the shelf right over there.
Cool.
All right. And until next time, bye.